Hey everyone, so I want to point out the pointlessness of any sort of gun control legislation that has ever been offered. I've touched on this point in the past, but there are several organizations that spend a great deal of time and effort attempting to have firearms be manufactured via 3D printing. That would obviously allow anyone with a 3D printer to be able to create a firearm in their own home. Now, this alone renders all proposed gun legislation obsolete and ineffective. If you are able to create something almost out of nothing, no law, no decree, no legislation, and no argument will be able to prevent someone from getting a firearm if they are motivated to obtain one. If anyone is serious about curbing gun violence, which is a perfectly fine, noble goal, despite the fact that gun violence has been on the decline, but if someone wants to talk about what to do to decrease gun violence even further, and they don't mention ending the war on drugs, if they don't mention abstaining from watching the mainstream media in order to hurt their advertising revenue for plastering these psychopaths' face all over your screens, which is an explicit form of glorifying these people, if they don't at least criticize news outlets that do mention their names, show their faces, and give us their entire backstory, then I must accuse them of being completely myopic and utterly inconsequential when it comes to gun violence. Their calls for more gun legislation won't do a thing in the long run. The answer must lie elsewhere. And I'll say this, the UK and Australia are often pointed out as having gun control or gun buyback programs. And look at them, they have a much lower firearm death rate than the US. The whole picture is hardly ever mentioned, though. The reality is that either gun violence was on a decline before the legislation was passed, which suggests that the legislation was not the cause of the decrease in gun violence, or in the case of the UK, they passed the law, gun violence spikes, and then it begins to plummet. But again, it was plummeting before the laws were created, so correlation most certainly does not equal causation here. And guess what country has a similar situation? The United States. Overall, gun deaths are trending downwards in the US, and they have been for quite some time. Yet you never hear about this, obviously because it doesn't fit their narrative of hysteria. But anyway, with the increase in popularity and efficiency of 3D printing, gun laws are becoming more and more obsolete as the days go on, and if someone is incapable of suggesting anything other than government stepping in, I have to point out their ultimate futility. Anyway, that's it for today. I'm sick like a dog. So long.